Now, when you're looking to buy a home, you're going to need the right information before money ever changes hands. Buyers lose thousands of dollars every day without ever actually closing on a home because they make these huge mistakes. I mean, it's like this mindset develops that you know you're going to be investing a large amount of money on a home, like you're mentally prepared to take the plunge, and suddenly $1,000 doesn't seem that significant anymore. Well, listen to me when I say $1,000 is still a lot of money, and you can minimize your risk of losing it. Now, I want to give you an example. We had a buyer who was considering a new build with Perry Homes, and there was a lot of pressure. Our buyer felt like they needed to secure the lot right then and there, or someone else was going to get it. I mean, classic maneuver by a smooth talking sales consultant to put on that high pressure. Well, they let money change hands on a Friday evening. And then over the weekend, they started having second thought. They realized that the lot they had secured back to a parcel that was zoned commercial. And so, they're reaching out to us extremely concerned that at some point along the line, they're gonna end up backing up to a Walmart. So in their minds, they're like, hey, we've had time to think this over and we wanna change our minds. Well, you can do that with a pre-owned home if you've requested an option period, but you can't do that with new construction, and specifically Perry Homes. With several Texas builders, the minute money changes hands, you're not gonna get it all back. Like with Perry Homes, they have a clause right in their contract that says they're entitled to a termination fee if things don't work out. And that termination fee, it's equal to half of the deposit. If you don't believe me, here's how the contract reads. Purchaser may terminate this contract and receive a refund of the earnest money minus a termination fee to seller of 50% of the earnest money only if purchaser fails to qualify for financing and notifies seller of same in writing within 14 days after the date of this contract. And listen, Perry Homes are not cheap. And that deposit is likely to be, like $20,000 or more. And for a lot of our buyers, you easily have that amount, right? You just sold your house from wherever you're coming from, but how do you feel about losing it? Right? Because there's no let me hold this house off the market while I think about it with these home builders. Now, one good thing about Perry is they'll let you see the contract before money changes hands so you can at least read it and know what you're getting into. But on the other hand, you have First Texas Homes, which by the way, they have some absolutely gorgeous designs. But we had a situation once where we were negotiating with our client, for a First Texas home, and they told us that our buyer had to pay money, a deposit, before we could even see the contract. So only after you have the contract, okay, listen to this, do you find out that not all of it is refundable. But of course you wouldn't have known that because you had to pay the deposit before you could see it. Now, both of these builders have inspection restrictions and all kinds of other objectionable things in their contracts that you may want to withdraw from the contract just for that. But if you do, you're not getting all your earnest money back, right? So how fast can you lose $10,000? Well, incredibly fast with these builders. And okay, just know this, all right? The sales consultants are incredibly good at what they do. Like, you start off with a friendly conversation, and the next thing you know, you're getting out your wallet. So my advice, put the wallet away and don't make a hasty decision. Now, by the way, don't make assumptions about your home selling in your current state. We have had numerous buyers, like I can even tell you how many, who've dropped a few $1,000s flying into Dallas, booking a hotel, all the eating out while you're here, only to find out your current house isn't gonna sell for what you thought it would. So listen, don't book those plane tickets based on a zestimate, okay? We've also had buyers who found exactly which house they wanted to buy. They went home, listed their home for sale, it sat for several months, and they ultimately gave up on moving. The thing is, whether or not your home will sell does not have to be a wild card, all right? The market will tell you what you need to know. Before you ever book that flight, meet with a realtor. Find out how much your home will sell for and the average days on market of homes in your neighborhood. In other words, how many days are they on the market before they go under contract? You also want to find out what percentage to list price are homes selling for. So, in your mind, like, are you going to end up having to come way off the list price in order to sell? And if so, are you okay with that? You also want to pay attention to things like seasonality. If this move has to take place in the winter and you're doing market research in the summer, Okay, just know that ultimately you're probably going to make less than you expect. Speaking of selling your pre-owned home, the buying model for that here in Dallas is pretty specific. All right, you don't have a built-in due diligence period like you might have in some states. Here in Dallas, you have to pay for it with what's called an option fee. So let's go ahead and talk about that, because here is where buyers can really lose a lot of money. The option fee is the money you pay to the seller to take the house off the market while you conduct your inspections. But listen up, you are not getting that money back. In the past, like during the pandemic, we saw buyers paying like $500, even $750 just to lock down a house for the option period. But here's the thing, okay, it is a buyer's market now, and the amount of the option fee is negotiable, so you don't have to be putting that much money down. If you could get away with $100 for the option fee, hey, go for it. Our buyers typically end up spending around $250 for an option fee. The key is you want to get the seller to be willing to keep their home off the market for as little money out of your pocket as possible. So this is all about being strategic. But I do want you to hear this key point. The option fee communicates how serious you are about buying. So you need to assess things like how competitive the market is, all right, how attached are you to this specific house, and how easy would it be to find another one that meets your needs. Because like if you offer zero, right, for the option period, the seller knows you're not willing to put any skin in the game. So why would they pull the house off the market for you? So it does send a message. All right, but you don't need to be spending $500 to $750 to send that message. Now let's talk about actually viewing the home for a minute. I mentioned the option period is a time for having inspections done, but figure out as much as you can before money has to change hands on either the option fee or the inspection. A second or a third showing is perfectly okay before submitting an offer. Don't feel like you're bothering your realtor, okay? That's what we do. So schedule that second showing, that third showing. And what I would encourage you to do is bring a checklist, okay? Because there are a lot of things you can see that don't require you to be an inspector. Like you can literally save yourself $1,000 right here, just by being thorough when you're viewing the home before putting an offer in. Because there are things, again, that you don't have to pay an inspector to find. But let's just say you didn't do that. All right, you did one showing, you fell in love with the house, and you decided to put in an offer. Like maybe the realtor you're working with encouraged you to overpay for the option fee. Again, it's all negotiable. And if you offer the sellers $500, I mean, they're certainly not gonna argue. So you pay $500 for the option fee. Then you pay another $500 for the inspection, only to find out that every window in the house has lost its seal and needs to be replaced. It wasn't visible because they were covered by blinds, but you could have checked. And now you're out $1,000 in just 2 days. I mean, you probably worked for a good bit to make $1,000, and just like that, you didn't do enough research, and now that money is gone. So what can you do? Again, make a checklist for every home that you're seriously considering. I mean, look for things you might ordinarily forget, like check out the roof, drainage problems, a rusty air conditioner unit or water heater, like no insulation in the attic. And of course the biggie, okay, here's the really big issue in Dallas, which is foundation issues. Okay, so we need to have a conversation just about foundation problems. Okay, because if you're relocating to Dallas, you may not even know what they are. But trust me when I say they are a big issue here in Dallas. So first off, all right, don't believe anyone who tells you every house in Dallas has foundation problems. And you probably will be told that, okay? Just know, listen to me, it's not true. But plenty of homes do, and these homes are characterized by being money pits that are notoriously hard to sell. Now, I wanna give you another example. We had a transaction several years ago where our buyer liked a home, and it didn't have any of the normal signs of foundation problems. There were no drywall cracks, the doors latched normally, they didn't swing open on their own. But one thing that really bothered me, okay, and that is that I felt a slant when I was walking. Also, when we were walking outside, you could tell, all right, barely, but you could still tell that there were cracks in the brick that had been repaired. And if you're not, again, if you're not familiar with foundation problems, okay, those are classic signs. Those cracks alone should have been enough. The fact that you could put a marble on the floor and it would roll, okay, that should have been enough. But we talked about it at some length, and our buyer really had an emotional connection with this house and really wanted it. So we put in our offer and went under contract. She dropped $200 on the option fee and then hired an inspector. So that cost her another $500. Well, guess what? The inspector saw the same signs we did and said he thought there were foundation problems. And again, our buyer loved the home. She didn't want to give up on it. So this time she hired an engineer. Well, that engineer cost her another $500. So at this point, she's out $1,200. So the engineer completed his report and there was over a 3-inch drop in the home. Then he showed us how the sellers had rehung the doors so that they would latch and that they wouldn't swing open and closed on their own. He showed us how they had replaced entire sections of drywall so you wouldn't see the cracks. On the seller's disclosure, the sellers didn't list a thing about foundation problems. So they were being completely dishonest, hiding it all, but still, okay, those cracks in the brick were there. At any rate, within just a few days, our buyer was out $1,200 and none of that was recoverable. And she kind of had like a deer in the headlights look. And I will tell you, it was such a powerful lesson. And it's like those lessons, all right, they just kind of pile up year after year. And when you're a realtor and you realize, right, how many things you never want to see happen to a buyer again. So know that there are sellers who will lie. But with incredible detailed diligence, you can usually find the signs. So just know that this option year period is going to require skin in the game, and do everything you can to disqualify the home before you even put in an offer. Okay, now let's talk about yet another way buyers lose money, and that is with not using an appraisal contingency to protect you. We're talking about even a bigger chunk of change here. I mean, what's at risk here is your earnest money, which is often 1% of your purchase price. So $500,000 house, earnest money is often $5,000. Well, you stand to lose that if the home doesn't appraise for the purchase price and you can't afford to make up the difference. Going right along with that is not using a detailed market analysis to ensure you're not overpaying in the first place. So something to know here is there are different loans you can use, some of which will have appraisal protection baked right in, but some won't. And when I use the word baked in, what I mean is if the home doesn't appraise for the purchase price, you can withdraw from the contract and get your earnest money back. Lending Tree explains it this way. They say the FHA amendatory clause is a disclosure that gives FHA loan borrowers the ability to back out of purchasing a home and receive a refund of any upfront earnest money if the value of the home is below the agreed upon sales price. So let's just say you're under contract for $500,000 and the home appraises for $475,000. If you're using FHA financing, you can withdraw from that contract and have your earnest money returned to you. The thing is, this doesn't apply uniformly across the board. Lending Tree explains the amendatory clause applies to FHA home buyers and eligible military borrowers buying a home with a VA loan. Sounds good, but then they continue. The amendatory clause does not apply to conventional loans or mortgages backed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Well, that led me to wonder about the ratio on these loans. And after a little digging, I found the U.S. Census Bureau reports that in 2023, 73% of new single-family houses sold were purchased using conventional financing. All right, so 73% of homebuyers in 2023 did not have appraisal protection. But here's the thing, with conventional loans on pre-owned homes, you can request it, all right? All you have to do is use the addendum concerning right to terminate due to lender's appraisal, all right? So remember that form. We were actually just negotiating a sale last week where we had this in our client's offer, and the listing agent was like just insisting, that buyers don't use this form anymore. She was like, oh, during COVID you did, but it just doesn't happen anymore. At the time, I was thinking to myself, man, this is not my first rodeo. So it's interesting how you can be told these things, and when you're an experienced agent, okay, they're not true. The same goes with the whole, every house in Texas either has foundation problems or will have them. Okay, that's just a line. So just a lot, that you're going to hear that's simply not true. So again, just remember, you have to use an experienced agent, which we are, by the way, and we're here to help. At any rate, suffice it to say, we use this on every conventional offer so our buyers are protected if the home doesn't appraise. Now, that being said, when it comes to new construction with a conventional loan, all right, you need to know you're out of luck. Okay, because new construction contracts are drafted by the builder's attorneys, and they will specifically spell out that if the home doesn't appraise, you as the buyer will make up the difference. So circling back to what I said earlier about using a market analysis, it becomes even more urgent in this situation. Like, you have to make sure you know the value of the home before you commit. Because with a conventional loan and new construction, you are not protected. Now let's talk about new construction for a minute, because this is another place where you can lose an enormous amount of money. Many of our buyers have just sold their home, right? And so they have a large amount of capital to work with. A lot of them want acreage, right? So the idea of doing a custom build is really appealing. Well, you need to know custom new builds are extremely risky in Dallas because builders don't have to be registered or licensed here. So you could literally have someone posing as a builder who has never built a home in their lives. So I cannot emphasize enough that it is extremely critical to vet a custom builder thoroughly. Make that builder give you references, then call every one of those references. Check the Better Business Bureau. For sure, check Google Maps for reviews. If they give you an office address, drive there to make sure it actually exists. We have worked with several buyers now who lost like $25,000 and more on what they thought was a custom build where the builder just disappeared. So this is actually fairly common in Texas. One key tip, if you do want to do this, is to put as little down as possible. If a builder, demands $20,000 for materials, don't pay it until those materials are sitting on your property, right? You can send a picture of that check, right? But don't let the money change hands until you have actually seen those materials delivered. In general, having a custom built home really is high risk. With a production builder, you get a warranty, and maybe the smaller builder will offer that. But who's to say he's even going to be around to honor that warranty? So what I recommend, if you really have your heart set on buying your own lot and then building on it, is to use builders like Dries or Coventry. All right, they are large production builders, but they'll still build on your lot. So now you do still have to go with their available floor plans. So it's not completely custom, but you have a lot more protection. Because the builder isn't gonna up and disappear when it's a big name production builder. Whether you're building with a large production builder or a small custom builder, another thing you should know is new builds have notoriously unpredictable timelines. So not planning ahead, not having a backup plan can cost you an enormous amount of money. You might think, that you're gonna be ready to move into your home, but next thing you know, you're stuck in an Airbnb and you're having to pay for a storage rental. Maybe the city delayed the permitting. The materials didn't arrive on time. It actually miraculously snowed in Dallas, and now you can't close for another 3 months. So plan ahead and have a good backup plan. Don't get caught off guard if your home isn't ready when you expect it. All right, let's talk about buying sight unseen, This one can really come back to bite you too, because you may get to Dallas and realize you don't want this home at all. And if that happens, your earnest money is at risk. And remember, again, that's a pretty good chunk of change. So let's talk about how this happens. Now, we have actually helped several of our buyers buy a home sight unseen. The trick here is you have to have a thorough realtor, because even if they covered every inch of the house, you're still gonna be missing things. All right, so think about this. What does the house back up to? A Costco? A police station? A future tollway? What's the parking situation like? Like if you've got teenage drivers, will they have a place to park? Is there good street parking? It's not just about the house, it's about the entire neighborhood. Also, here's another one. How maintained are other homes on the street? How busy is the street? Will you hate it the moment you move in? So these are all things that should be checked out that a realtor might not always think of. A lot of what we've talked about here applies to pre-owned homes, and if you want a short commute, honestly, a lot of times you're gonna have to go that route. So listen, if you have your heart set on Plano or Allen or even Frisco, all right, you need to know the risks that you're going to have with pre-owned homes, many of which honestly are unique to Dallas. To do that, I recommend starting out with this video here. In the meantime, Wendy out.